All right, guys, welcome to the funnel copywriting deep dive module. We are going to do a serious deep dive into all the different sections of the funnel when it comes to copywriting. I'm not speaking specifically about the pages that we're using to convert people into book calls. Okay, essentially is what we're trying to do here. But what I'm also going to be doing is using some examples of some other funnels and different styles so that you can get an idea of what you need to say and do in order to convert people to things like webinars, masterclasses, low ticket products, those types of things. There's a swipe file that I'll be dropping down below this, which will give you some insight, which I think will help as well. But let's get started. Let's talk about headlines, right? First impression. This is everything. I mentioned this in a previous module and lesson, but we really need to take a step back, and I want to make sure that you're following Eugene Schwartz's stages of awareness. Remember, problem aware, solution aware, all that stuff. You have to understand where people are at in their journey because that determines everything, right? It determines what you're going to say. I'm going to use some examples here. This is a middle of funnel strategy that we use for a client, Laura, who has a menopause offer. I mentioned her and use her as an example in a previous one here. So the menopause reset, this is very broad. This is actually a low ticket sort of product. It was a live $47 program that we helped her run. But this is something that's going to attract a certain type of person. And who is that person? It's the person who they understand where they're at. If I'm going to run an ad to a product with someone who wasn't a problem aware, I would say it would be around, why am I feeling like this? Or why doesn't my body work like it used to? It would be agitating that problem. Whereas here, we're basically saying, here, you know you're in menopause. Here's the reset, right? Here's the thing. For Prash's offer, this is another good example that I used in a previous lesson, the 200K job offer formula. It's not how to get a job, right? It's not, we're going to help you get that dream job. This is very specific because we're only looking for women who have a specific level, who want to get to that next level. So this is where, understanding Eugene Schwartz's stages of awareness is really, really important because it's going to determine what you say in your headlines. I wish I could give you a swipe file that was going to work for everyone. Okay. It's just not. What I would focus on is this. Clarity is always going to be more important than how clever you are. All right. And this is the danger of using ChatGPT for everything. If you're going to use ChatGPT, you have to make sure that you teach it and train it properly so that it gives you the clarity. And I'm using get 10 qualified calls in 30 days. That's a terrible hook and headline because it's super played out. But it's most people, if they go to ChatGPT, you're going to get unlock your potential. Right? If you look at these 200K job offer formula, right? And then it's specific offer in a specific amount of time, 5 days. This was a live challenge. So putting specificity, combining that with the problem is really, really important. It's clarity. They know exactly what they're going to get in these situations. And I cannot stress enough how important this is as you're writing copy. So don't overthink it, right? You don't need to get real fancy and clever with your language. Just be specific. And, the more specific you can be, the better, right? I think that's really, really important. Unique mechanism highlights, if you can tie it into your headline, that's great. That's probably more for, if I'm doing like a lead magnet or something like that, here I kind of mention the 3-step system, and down below on the page, we kind of get into some of the details, but I don't tell them what that program is, right? And I can't remember if I did that with Laura too, but it's essentially the same kind of concept. I'm just highlighting down below here, they get to kind of experience the program, right? It's designed to create curiosity and urgency at the same time, all those different things. But it's okay if you're doing top of funnel, right? If I'm doing a top of funnel like lead magnet, then I might say the XYZ system that's helping clients, this, that, and the other. In fact, I believe I have that. This is a great example of lead magnet for Prash's offer. This isn't the lead magnet to this, but it's a lead magnet to her VSL. And it's basically how my STEM success framework. So this is her unique mechanism, right? So this is a great example of bringing that in. But look at the specificity, right? They know, right? It's for women who are in STEM only. So it's my target audience. We're calling that out. STEM women. We mention it multiple times. There's a unique mechanism here that revolves around the audience, their goal, right? 200K plus roll in a period of time. So that's the framework. If you can create something like this and really hone in on what your target audience is after, the headlines are the most important thing because this is what creates the hook, right? And this ties into not just your funnel pages, but your ads, your email copy, everything. It all needs to be funneling in the right direction. Just think about that first impression and being clear, right? Aware of where they're at, be clear and specific, right? And highlight your mechanism at the top of the funnel and reinforce that unique mechanism with all the back-end stuff that you're doing. Okay. So let me talk about that for a moment because I think this is a critical teaching point. So if someone were to opt in on her funnel here, they're going to get into her VSL page. Okay. And I'll just do that really quick here. Headline matches. This is her VSL. She comes in, this is the VSL. They fill out the application, great. If they don't, that's fine too. But if they don't, they're going to go on her email list. They're going to get follow-up emails. They're going to get offered to join her community. They're all the nurture ecosystem stuff. What is one of those other things that goes into that nurture ecosystem? Live events. Okay. So this is a great example of congruency through the funnel. I've talked about this before, but it bleeds into copywriting too. And it's really, really important that we talk about this. Okay. Because I'm going to harp on that. Anytime I do a funnel audit and I look at someone's funnel, the first thing that I'm looking for is congruency. So from you saw from her opt-in, now they're on the VSL. If they don't book here, they're going to get emails and reoffers and things that are going to hinge around, there you go, right? 200K job offer, 200K, 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 200K. That's in STEM. It's congruency. So they're not getting hit with this funnel right away. They're going to get offered because this is a live event. These are reactivation strategies and things that we do to nurture. If you go back and watch my marketing ecosystem training, all those little touch points, right, that we're doing the funnel throughout the process, this is a great example of congruency and why it's so important to maintain and understand where your target audience is at and what they really, really want. And that's what leads to good headlines and what leads to congruent headlines and specificity and all that other stuff. So that's headlines. That's the first thing that we're going to focus on. We'll get into the rest of it as we go. I will see you in the next lesson.